Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. And we've got Tane back. Tane, it's great to see you. We've missed you over the last few episodes.
Yeah, I've definitely missed the last few episodes, but yeah, I'm glad that it's coming into summer. Is always a good sense of change of seasons. I think something that I've probably put into my basket the last couple of weeks has just been to celebrate the small successes. And I think, often we've talked about it many times around striving for those huge achievements. But now that I've started going back into counselling and, looking at how rocky this year has been in terms of life change and moving back home, all those kinds of changes that have happened in my life. I think it's just been an awesome realization to, I guess, reflect on that change and reflect on where I am now compared to where I was, let's say, 6 months ago. Because I think we often forget, or we like to forget about those tough times. We like to celebrate being in those happy spaces, but I think sometimes it's important to reflect on that success of coming through those challenging times and what that's taught you along the way.
Yeah, so true. I think as you said before, too many times we focus on the big things, but actually can be, every day. Success can be those little things that we do in those moments there. So it's really awesome to hear that you come back to counseling and getting that back into since I know you've had a pretty challenging year this year. So really awesome to hear that. And my learning is the fact that change is inevitable. We like to think that we have control of our lives, but actually, our lives are happening. So we have a choice of letting our lives happen to us, or we have control over the things that we can control. We change is going to come. Change is part of it, and every day is change. And my thought process on that is how can we make change that is positive in whatever phase it is, whether it's positive towards ourselves, to other people, because it's so very easy to get caught into the world of negativity because the media out there is so full of negativity, but also it's so easy to get caught into that without actually realizing that sometimes that stuff is actually not true. It's just there to make us get hyped up and aggravated. So think about change in a positive way is my learning over the last week. But that's enough about the two of us because we can keep bantering forever and ever and ever. And as you know, we scour the country, we scour the world for people that we think are interesting. We think and we know everybody is interesting, has a story to tell. And today we are so privileged, so lucky, and so honored to have our guest. This is a person that I connected with probably 3 years ago, or almost 3 years ago, I guess, in person. I'm trying to remember that. Yeah, probably 3 years ago. And when I met them and I heard their story, I was like, oh, this is an interesting person. And the more that I've got to know them, especially on a weekly basis with what they share, I'm like, wow, this is an amazing, amazing human with lots to share. So we're very lucky to have this person on our podcast. But before I introduce her onto the podcast, it is her birthday today. So imagine someone has sacrificed, first of all, a Sunday morning, their birthday to come and spend time with us. So we are really honored and very lucky to have our guest today. Let's welcome to Baskets of Knowledge, Margot. Kia ora, Margot, and welcome to Baskets of Knowledge.
Hey, Rajesh and Tane, so nice to meet you and be here today, and thank you. Thanks. It's been a really lovely start to the day, actually.
Oh, fantastic. Margot, for people who know nothing about who you are as a person, who is Margot today on the 9th of November?
Ooh. At the moment, right now, I'm feeling really chuffed because I just bought my own home on my own, which has been a huge achievement. I started working towards that 7 years ago, so it's been a really long journey, but yeah, and I'm like, I keep saying, I feel like I'm falling in love with my house. So at the moment, I'm all about house stuff but the reason that's been such a big focus is that I feel that I can give more to the world when I have stability in my home life. And so that's kind of been the underlying reason to work so hard to get a little place that I can just call my home and come home to without risk of it changing. So, yeah.
Oh, I love you, and that's just one part of you, and there's so many different angles, and I
Yes.
love and I love that you speak about your home giving you stability, which allows you to then rocket launch to other parts of your life. But
Exactly.
if we go back to 8 years ago, so not 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and if I said to you 8 years ago, hey, Margaret, in 8 years' time you'll have your own home by yourself, what would you have said to us at that point in time?
I would not have believed you, to be honest. That was when I started my coaching journey for my own coaching. And I remember I was in a very dark place, and I remember my coach saying, think as big as you can. What would you have if you could have anything? And at the time, I was a single mum on my own with three small children, smallish children, under sort of around that 10 age. And I remember saying that I would want to be able to buy meat twice a week to have for dinner, that I would like the kids to do an after school activity of their choice. That was as big as I could dream that long ago. So, yeah, it was really a very difficult time. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you think about it, that was 8 years ago. So what switched for you in year 7 years ago when you were actually waiting when this home thing is actually something that can become a reality?
Yeah, it's a really cool question. So I was my you know you and I both know Trish Coleman. She's an
Yes.
amazing woman, altogether in her own right, a phenomenal businesswoman, and now an amazing coach. And she was in my community. I lived in North Canterbury, and I ran the Tourism and Business Association for a number of years. I started it with two other ladies, Trish and a friend Claire, and then we ran that and built it to having 60 different businesses in it, which is pretty big in North Canterbury because we're very
Wow.
small. And as when Trish finished up her business Mama T Trading Lounge, she told me in a coffee that she was going to start a coaching business or learn to be a coach. And I said to her, I need to be your first client because I always thought she was just an amazing woman. And so, yeah, for the first couple of years, she was that person for me. And when things were really hard, we had this system where I had to send her a heart every day because I was in a quite a difficult spot. And so the color of the heart indicated how I was feeling that day. And that was at that point. And she was the one that asked me to set three extraordinary goals, a couple of extraordinary goals to work towards. And the funny thing was, when I set those goals, I really thought that they were impossible or very difficult to achieve. And within 3 months, I'd totally kicked them out of the park and things were looking brighter. And I think that because they were achieved so fast, I suddenly thought, oh, maybe I could dream bigger. And so I think then I moved into the city and then I must have read a book. I can't think, I've read so many books, but I read a book and basically it just said, dream as big as you can. And always, since I was 18 years old, I always wanted to own my own home. And I have owned four houses, but because of relationships and things, I haven't managed to hold on to them. And so I just thought, I'm just going to set that goal. So literally, I went from dreaming about being able to buy feta and meat to going, what's the biggest thing I could, like by achieving that goal and getting the girls into circus and the activity that they wanted to do and suddenly feeling more in control of my own destiny. I thought, oh well, if I'm going to, I may as well dream really big. And yeah, and that's how I set that goal of buying a house and started myself on that trajectory. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love that share. I love that share because a lot of us listening to the podcast as well, those that are tuning in, we set our goals, but the goals we set are in our comfort zones. Even though we don't think about it, but when you step back as you do now and go reflect, actually, I was playing really small. I was just being comfortable and on the edge of uncomfortableness. And I remember when I did my coach training, and my the coach was like, "What's your goal?" And people had all these different goals, and I had my little goal, and it was like, "None of those are goals. None of those are goals. That's just the way you're just wasting your time." And I was like, "Whoa, how arrogant is this guy here wasting my time? This is my goal." But he said something like, if your goal doesn't scare you, then it's not a goal. If your
Yeah.
goal doesn't scare
Yeah.
you, it's not a goal. And that's when I was like, oh, actually, so, as you said, I'm pretty sure when you said the goal, it was a scary goal, but
Mm.
it didn't stop you.
No. And I think the thing I'm feeling right now, I feel really proud. And I don't know, I'm sure I've felt that before, but not like this. It's really nice. Yeah, it's a really lovely feeling. And I think that's the thing that when you set that scary goal and you achieve it, that's when you don't need others' recognition of it because you just know how much work went into getting there yourself, and it's really lovely.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really, really beautiful. And I'm going to switch tack just a little bit. I mean, as we
Mm,
said before, we're celebrating your birthday, but you have also had a lot of health challenges going along,
mm,
that I just learned
yeah.
about this week. Yeah. Do you want to share with us, I guess, and our listeners about the health challenges that you've had and where you are today? That message you sent in the WhatsApp group the other day was so, I mean, yes, I said amazing, but my words couldn't describe exactly how I felt when you shared that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a really challenging decade, to be honest. So, 11 years ago. So my mother had breast cancer. She's had it twice when she's had surgery twice, I should say. So when I was young, I knew that, so my mum and dad moved from Holland to Australia when I was young. I grew up in Brisbane. And when you're young, you hear about aunties and uncles that are sick and things like that. And I kind of knew that there was a history of something in our family, and I didn't really fully grasp it. And then when mum got sick, when I had Hannah, who's 20 now, and I was pregnant with her, about to give birth, mum and dad told me that mum had breast cancer. And so while I had a very, very small baby, my mum went through breast cancer, and I found that so challenging. Like, we lived across the city from each other, a good hour's drive away, and a small child, and mum, not being able to see me because of that she might get sick. And I really struggled with it. And over the time after that, until 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I kind of had it in the back of my mind that if my family had this BRCA gene, there's a big chance I did too. But obviously, having had three daughters, there was also the chance that they had it from me. So there was a funny double fear that I had not only got the gene myself, but that I passed it on. But I decided to shelve that and have my children. And then when I had my final child, Anika, who's 14, I decided it was time to find out and empower myself. So I went to my doctor and I got the testing done in France for the gene thing. And sure enough, I had the gene. And it's funny sitting in there with the surgeon. He said, "Look, I'm really sorry to let you know, but you do have this BRCA1 gene, which means I'm predisposed to breast cancer and ovarian cancer." And he said you might want to consider having a double mastectomy, so having your boobs removed. And I said, "Yep, okay, cool." And he went, "No, no, you might want to consider it." And I was like, "Okay, but I'll do it." And it was really funny. That was, yeah, about 12 years ago. And again, I went away, I thought about it, but it didn't change my mind. My thing always came back to how much I disliked mum going through it and how I felt out of control and unable to help. And I didn't want my girls to go through that. So I wanted to show them an empowered view on that. And so obviously, that brought up a lot for me, and I actually went through a bit of a bucket list because when I was 16, one of my best friend's mum went in for a routine surgery and died on the operating table, and it shocked me so deeply to my core. I didn't realize quite how badly until this point when I found out the surgery was 8 hours and it seemed massive. I actually thought I wasn't going to survive the surgery. I didn't, yeah, I don't know. That's how it felt. And I did a bucket list. And on my bucket list, I wrote all these things. And when I spoke to my husband at the time, the kid's dad, about it, he didn't want to do any of the things. And I thought, oh, okay. I thought we were doing these things after the kids were grown up. And he went, no, never want to do any of them. And I went, oh. And so it was quite crazy because such a massive thing coming up, it ended up actually leading to the end of my marriage, which was really difficult, which then deferred any surgeries or anything because I had to get life
Mhm.
sorted. So over the course of 2 years, that all happened, and then finally got to the day where we did my surgery, and luckily I woke up. And when it's a longish story, so when I woke up from the surgery, I the first thing I said was, I need to do more with my art. And I partner at the time said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I don't know, but I think I need to do something really big." And that's how I started painting my murals. So yeah, that's just leads to how that happened, and that so the, I had the surgery, and it was successful, but there was a complication. So a couple of months later, there was a leak. They hadn't sealed it up properly, and they had to have emergency surgery, and one whole side had to be redone at like the drop of a hat. So that was a little bit scary. And then that was at 35, and they told me at 40 I would have to have my ovaries out if I wanted to really mitigate the risk, because I had two family members that had had the ovarian cancer as well. So I thought, yeah, let's just do that. So I didn't end up doing it at 40. I was a little nervous after the complications, and so I
Yeah.
put off the surgery for a year. And I think at 41 and a half, they said, look, this is the last chance we'll give you to do this. And so I went, right, let's do it. And that went swimmingly. Um, uh, and so then so that's 6 years ago or something. And about 4 years ago, I'd moved into town. I'd got myself a really great job. So I've always worked for myself, which I love doing. Um, but then I still wanted to buy a house. And one of my clients said to me, "Why don't you get a job?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want a job. I like being really flexible and working around the children, and I like working with lots of creativity." And he said, "Oh, well, I think we could do that for you. So why don't you write what the job might look like and send me a proposal?" And so in the end, long story short, I got the job with him. And interestingly, by creating that sort of safety net of being in town, things being settled with the kids and at home and with their dad and that sort of thing, and having a job where I had regular, stable income, I think my body went, "Oh, it's time to rest." And I came down with chronic fatigue. And so, if any you if anyone doesn't know what happens with chronic fatigue, your body just stops working. I actually ended up in hospital 3 times. One time they thought it was a heart attack. Another time I collapsed from pain that was 4 times worse than childbirth, like really debilitating pain. And I honestly thought I was dying. I it was really awful. And over the last 4 years, I've learned how to manage that pain and the fatigue, and got back to working a normal job. But I'm here with the kids. I've bought a house. I've got a regular income, and yeah, pretty much not overcome the fatigue, but learned how to manage the fatigue. So that's and what I wrote on the chat that we're both part of was that I finally, after 11 years, got discharged from the hospital system on Wednesday this week. So that was a very long journey, but I'm really, yeah, proud to have conquered that, I suppose.
Thank you for sharing that there. And what a story. And oh, I'm saying and multiple times because it's you're proud of your health, which is amazing, but also the fact that you have learned how to mitigate or manage chronic fatigue syndrome, but going through everything amongst all that, but still having a job, being a mum, doing all that you have to do is really, really, really quite powerful and empowering as well to anyone that's listening to your podcast. But you speak about it, but there would have been times when you were like, this I cannot, I'm done, just mentally. What got you through those really dark times when and I say that because I'm assuming I could be incorrect. There's times when you just go like, I've just had enough. This is not that I want to die, I want to give up, but I just can't do anything else. What got you through those dark times?
People.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I do everything is my love for people. And uh, when I very, very first moved into town, must be about 6 years ago now, I went to I'm going to forget the name, tarot reader, person that reads the future. Not my jam at all. But a girlfriend wanted to go because it was her birthday, and I said, "What would you like to do?" And she said, "I want to go and do this. Would you come with me?" I was like, "Okay, cool. It's your birthday." So I went, and when I went into the room with the lady, because we went separately, I said to her, "Look, I I'd love to just have a cup of tea and a chat. And, I'm not too worried about my future. I don't want to know what it is. I will make it. And so we had this lovely chat. Beautiful, oh, beautiful woman she was. And we had this beautiful chat over a cup of tea. And at the end, she said, "May I tell you one thing?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And she said, "If you follow your heart and lead with love, you will be more successful than you ever dreamed of." And I came home and I made a painting, first painting I've ever made that I didn't think about. I just got home and it was like I was on autopilot. I just grabbed a canvas, grabbed my brushes, painted until I stopped, and then I had this beautiful painting. And everyone that looks at it says to me, "Wow, I feel really good when I look at that picture." So, um, and from that day, everything I do is from my heart and with love. Even when I'm unhappy with people, if you want to say that, or having a difficult time, I try and always look at it from a point of love. And I have only had success. There has been tough times and there's been things that haven't gone the way I wanted, but my life has just been so beautiful. When I felt down in the past before this sort of period, I think my thing was that I wasn't lovable. I think I'm really loud and vivacious and sparkly, and I can be a bit too much for some people. And because of that, I used to think that I am just too much altogether. And that was my difficult point when I was down. And then I just decided, I got to this point where I thought, I'm just putting out the love into the world that I want to receive. I'm not having any expectation to receive it. And guess what? Now I look at my phone and I look at my messages, and all I have is love everywhere. Everyone, my bosses, my like everyone in my life is so loving. And I think I just, yeah, I'm so grateful. I think by putting myself into the world with what I want to receive or what I feel the most dearly, I'm now getting it back again. And yeah, whereas before I don't know, I did learn boundaries and I learned a few other things about what kind of personality type doesn't resonate in my world. And I don't really have anyone like that anymore in my world. But yeah, the love thing has just it's just blown me away and I just adore it. So yeah, it's definitely what gets me through the hard times is my friends and the love in my life.
Isn't it crazy that a cup of tea and one word or one phrase has just changed your whole perspective in life?
I know, so grateful.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's really beautiful. I'm going to come back to this because in your book at the last on your last page you go, what can I tell you? I'm a passionate person, personally and professionally. I get energy from variety. I work hard to sum into one line, but I manage this, and it comes down to this: I like people. And it's so obvious as you speak today that people are an important part of your life in all
Yeah,
aspects.
the most.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
most
My
important, yeah.
highest values are love and connection. So,
Yeah, yeah, and it's really important, that we know we do all these tests and things, and we realize that our highest values are our personality types, but it's what you do with it. Like,
mm,
it's all good to like, you and I, but I just in a disc, and I was doing a profiling last week with a group, and I challenged them like, cool, you all know what styles you are. What are you going to do with that information today? Like, what's your next
yes.
step? And they're like, oh, and I was like, yeah,
Yes.
and I was like, yeah, it's cool to do this here, but now what? Now what happens?
It's so empowering.
Yeah, because as you and I know, because you can like your style, but what happens after that? Then what do you do? So
And can you feel yourself flipping into your style now? If I
100%,
don't know if
hundred
do you have
percent.
an arrow? Yeah, because when I changed to 100% I now feel it. I'm like, ooh, I'm 100% I. And with
Yeah,
my chronic fatigue, I know that that person can drain me. So I know that I can only be that in that space for a limited amount of time, and then I have to flip back to my SI. So
100%. So for those of you that are wondering what we're talking about, both Margaret and myself are extended disc practitioners. So if you want to learn more about that, hit us up later on, and we'll explain what that is. Because I think there's so many tools out there. There's every tool under the sun, and they're all fantastic. But if you do every tool, you're not going to figure things out. Just pick the one tool and then just go with it, and then whatever it is. Because I had a client of mine who was like, I've done Myers-Briggs, I've done Clifton, I was like, cool, you've done all those things here, but what are you doing with that information? And I love how it was no tool, it was just a cup of tea, and they just said, you go and lead with love, and that's it. when
It's
you've done that.
being open, right? It's
Yeah,
being open to what's around you. It could be a person on the street. It could be people, I think that thing I really love is that there's you something I read in one of the books, one of those famous books like the 12 thingy Carnegie, I can't remember his name, but How to Influence People. It was one of those
yeah,
books where he said you could go to a course that was on a topic that you already know a lot about, right? You could go to a course and you could walk away and go, I already knew all that. But someone might say one thing that gives you a slightly different perspective on the topic that you already know lots about. And that could be the gift, you know. And so I try and go into every interaction with anyone and think, what was the gift out of this, you know?
exactly. Yeah, because every interaction is a gift, and it's a gift of either what I can learn or what I don't want to learn. It's two ways. It
Yes.
doesn't mean,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Margaret, the other thing I want to touch on is I just read that line, and that line came from your book, Creating Communities. And tell us more about what was the inspiration behind writing the book, and specifically about communities. Because you could write a book about anything, and you've chosen to write something about something that's very specific. And we'll share the link in the
Thank
show
you.
notes so people can get a copy of the book if they want to purchase one. But it's a really fantastic book. I mean, thank you for sharing it with me, and I think it's got some amazing practical tips. Why would you write that book?
So about 4 years ago, I was in Sydney with a girlfriend, and I had learned about passive income and about creating. I wanted to create a sustainable future for myself. And we were walking and talking, and we've been friends for many, many years, since 18 years. And as we were going along, we were walking and talking, and she said to me, "Oh, Margot, whatever you do, it has to be about community. It's been everything in your life." And I thought to myself, "Oh, you're totally right." And so we talked through, we're like, should it be a podcast? Should it be a blog? What should it be? And I at the time I just thought, oh, for me, I just love books, right? I just adore books. And I love holding a book, and I love the longevity of a book, that you can pass it on to someone, all that sort of stuff. And I got to the airport to go home from that long weekend and just sat at the airport and wrote 3 pages of chapter headings of all the things that. So basically, I thought a dummy's guide to running a community organization and creating change was what I wanted. So because I'm sure there's lots of textbooks from really wise people and people that have been to university and all different things. But the people that I have worked with in community have been kids, students, mums, people that are in their community just getting stuff done. Didn't know if I could swear. And that I love, and they're the people that I thought could possibly use just some extra. So it's the people that go, I'd love to make a change, but I don't know where to start. And so the idea was to create a book that would be really easy to read, really easy to just pick up at any page and get something off that page. That idea of everything. I read this book when the kids were young that was called Buddhism for Mothers. And I had a whole bunch of friends that had the same book. And we used to say you could just sit down exhausted and just open it up and something on that page would resonate. And that's what I wanted to do with my book. I wanted to have that you could pick it up at any point and pick it up and go, oh yeah, that was really useful. I didn't think of it that way. And so that I'd made it really, it's really long, but it's really short. All the chapters are like, you could read them in a couple of minutes. And all the language is really modern day average language. And the biggest thing that I overlaid across the whole book. So I wrote the book, and then I got the chronic fatigue, and I hadn't published yet. And I remember saying to my editor, "Oh, I can't believe that this has happened. And why has this happened?" And he said, "I don't know, but there'll be a reason." And the reason was that I had to rewrite the book with the lens of fatigue. I had to rewrite it because people that do community projects are working, are mothers, are carers, and they have to be kind to themselves. I have seen and been one of the people that burns out from doing too much in community. So I had to rewrite the book from the lens of don't burn yourself out. And so, yeah, the book is written very kindly. It's been written all about looking after yourself and setting up your projects or the projects that you're part of so that you don't burn yourself out. So yeah, so it's got twofold. One fold is make amazing differences in the world, how to, and you can do it, like a positive, yay, let's go. And the other one is how to do it without really putting yourself at risk and your family energy wise. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really and thank you for sharing with me. I mean, as I shared to you in our little chat there, that I've only skimmed through it because I'm a visual reader.
It's on the
But
way.
but like I said just before, just picking up the little chapters there is really beautiful. But what I picked up there was the motivator for the book, and it changed quite dramatically with the lens. When your lens changes, the way you look at things change. Um, and what is that like for you? Because, and I asked this because the other day I wrote an article about burnout,
Yes, you did.
which gets people excited. And in there, the premise of the article was, but burnout is a really big topic, but also sometimes we forget to take ownership of the fact that we're actually responsible for our own burnout. It's easy to blame everything else, but sometimes we have to look in the mirror and go, actually, what am I saying yes to? When it's not a health condition, right? When it's just you just keep saying yes to everything. Um, when you read that article and you said to me, "Hey, this is something that I'd like to talk about," what came up for you as you thought about that?
Yeah, it is 100% right. And even with a health condition, it is still your responsibility. So chronic fatigue feels like you're dying, and it can get worse and worse and worse. So when I got sick, it was right at the beginning of COVID. So we couldn't go to in-person things. It was harder to go
Oh,
to the doctor. And my mum and dad are in Brisbane. And my dad messaged me. He'd obviously done some research. And he said, the big thing about chronic fatigue is to have a group of people, a community around you to support you. So I found the local chronic fatigue association here. And I went onto a Zoom call and I walked out of the bedroom and I went, sod that. I'm not doing that because what I noticed was people seem to get worse. So like I literally collapsed a couple of times, and then and I still did for about 3 years. Every 3 months I'd kind of have a collapse moment. Um, but what I noticed was people got worse. So people would go from having the pain to not being able to walk a certain distance to not being able to open the curtains because their eyes hurt to not being able to get out of bed to not being able to get dressed. And I thought, no, no, that's all going backwards. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards. And so I was not lucky, but I have income protection. And because I have income protection and I have an amazing insurance broker, he got me he made sure I had someone at the insurance company that worked for me, and she got me in to see a occupational therapist called Ben, and he was amazing, and we worked together, and we both just read the same book. Oh, God. And The Body Keeps the Score by
mhm.
Bessel van der Kolk. And so interestingly, because we both read it, we were like zinging on it, and we came to realize that the fatigue was 10 years of difficulty in life. And even before that, my ex-husband had been really unwell for 7 years in our marriage, the last 7 years. So firstly, that moving countries to try and help his health. Within 6 months, an earthquake, then another, a series of earthquakes over the period of time, and then we had lockdowns and everything. So, and the marriage breaking up and the surgeries. So there was just a whole bunch of things that had stressed me out, and I try and be the best I can all the time. But because of that, I had got myself to a point that my body just couldn't keep going. And so what I now realize, when I was in a safe place with a job and a great household, I had flatmates and things, so I had a very low cost of living. My body went, oh, you have time to rest. You're not going to have a choice about this. You are going to rest, whether we like it or not. And so that's how I got to the place where I got chronic fatigue. That is why my body did that. The body kept the score and it said, you're going to rest whether you like it or not. And so over the course of 2 years, I had 6 months almost completely off work. And then over the course of 2 years, I built my resilience back up, but each time by falling down again. So I'd go, yeah, I can totally do 4 hours a week. And then, oh, actually, 4 hours is too much today. And then the next week or the next, couple of months, I'd do a bit more and a bit more. And now I'm back to 40 hours a week. But even that, even now, like yesterday, I helped at the school fair. And this week I did a couple of nights where I helped out with spreadsheets and, signs and things for the school fair. And last night I was absolutely shattered. I was on my feet from 7 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, and I could barely move last night. And so I said today, this is the only thing I'm doing today. My kids are cooking me breakfast shortly and but nothing else. And so I have really learned that I have to take space. When I moved house, I took extra time off than I normally would. So it is, you are correct that it's our responsibility to figure out. I'm not saying you know how to do it because you only know how to do it when you do it wrong,
That's right.
right? It's
Yeah.
about next time. It's like the last time I went on holidays, I took a longer holiday, but what I realized afterwards was I should have taken it one day before I went on the holiday to actually prepare because
Yeah.
I felt a little rushed. And when I got to the airport, I was like, okay, that wasn't fun. So it's about remembering that the next time you book a holiday a year later, I need to take one extra day to prepare because I didn't enjoy feeling so stressed by the time I got to the airport. So I think it's just a constant evolution. That's what
100%.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because what I love about that is it's we always get feedback. Our body gives us feedback, our environment gives us feedback, and it's whether or not we listen to that there. We have a choice to listen to feedback, and sometimes the body goes, okay, cool, I've given you all these warning signs, I've been very kind to you, and now I'm just going to shut down because you didn't
Yep.
listen to me. And it's
Mm.
it's really funny because I remember when I was teaching, and whenever we go to school holidays, you just get sick straight away. It's because you're on the go, 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 and then when it comes to school holidays, as you say, your body goes, ah, and then boom, you just
Yeah. And
different
that's
stuff.
why now I think that's what it's funny now looking at other people and I'm learning to be a coach, but I don't officially coach yet. But now with that lens on, when I'm at work and I see people who get sick quite regularly or that have a sore back or that, something comes up, I'm like, oh, your body's trying to tell you something. And I always try to gently say, oh, do you think maybe your body's trying to tell you this or maybe you need a day off or like I really the whole mental health day is so vital. Taking a mental health day even when we don't feel that sick yet
Yep.
is it is the thing that will stop you from getting actually really, really sick. And so that I think that I sound very old here, but our kids have got it right. My kids, I always think, and I hear it from guys at work who are a bit older, they're like, oh, harden up, and the guys take days off when they're not that sick. But actually, you come back and you work twice as hard the next day because you gave yourself the space to just catch up. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
and
agree?
I'm gonna bring Tana in because Tana has gone through something challenging recently, and I'd love to know what his perspective is
Mm.
as he navigated that.
Yeah, definitely. You've given me some deep insight into reframing that space that I went through. It's definitely I think as you say we don't often take that space just to take the space. We often wait until there's no other reason or no other choice but to take that space. So I think it's really important that you do take that space. So really insightful for sure.
Yeah, because Tana, when you were going through what you're going through, you didn't give yourself that permission to take that space, did you?
No, I just kept going for the sake of keep on keeping on. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's what
sometimes
we do, though, isn't it? And we're taught to do that. Societally, it does feel like it's, I don't know because I'm not a man, but I do feel that particularly with guys, there is a sense of, come on, just keep going, harden up kind of thing, even though it's much better than it used to be. I do wonder if that's not the case. Mm.
yeah, and I think it's really interesting that you say that because for both you and Tane, sorry, yeah, both you and Tane, I have to share that I work in an organization at the moment, and it's really interesting how it's seen very different when different team members ask for mental health days. And for some, it's like, yep, no brainer, give it to you, easy. And for some others, they require evidence and proof. And my head is going, I don't understand. I do not understand why there's two very different measures of mental health in quotation marks when somebody asks. And I think this is the problem, right? Because as you said, Margot, before, is society slash the world has this perception of mental health or no mental health, and you can just harden up and you can just do it because there's no physical sickness that you can see.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. I had a friend who had a surgery and she somehow they severed her spinal cord or part of it and
Ugh.
she has no feeling from her belly button down. So she looks, it's called the walking paraplegic. And so she looks completely fine. She walks, and yet it's incredibly debilitating. She can't work, she can't go to the toilet easily, all these sort of things. She has no feeling down there. So, and I did not realize just that's one of those things where people think she's fine, but obviously she's dealing with a lot. And so, yeah, I just think you can never assume that someone's okay because they look okay. You have no clue what's going on at home or in their body. And we do need to give people the space for that, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the whole hidden disability sunflower is really becoming very big, but it also works the other way around because someone shared a story with me that they were wearing the hidden disability sunflower, and because of that, they were already prejudged that they couldn't do something. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't win in that situation. It's so
Yeah,
crazy.
it does feel like that, doesn't it? It's so interesting, isn't it? And I think that's where, when I learned about boundaries, initially it was about other people, but now I see boundaries as uh, protecting my own health. So not about interactions with people as much, but now it's more about protecting my body from stress so that I don't get sick again that badly. And that's why we need to allow people to take the days when they need the sick days, because when you know your body and you know what it is capable of, then you should be have the right to take the time you need to make it heal. And it's funny because I do that now. So if I go to work, I work 40 hours, and some days I'm not handling it, and I will drive my car around the corner and lay down and have a sleep in my car for 15 minutes, and I could go home, but sometimes there's a lot on or I need to, so I just do that. I go in, and I used to get to school when I still took the kids to school all the time. I'd get to school at 2:45 and I would put the seat down and I'd sleep until the bell went at 3 o'clock. That was, part of how I got through the chronic fatigue. And I think it's about finding those micro or macro things that you can do that will help you still function well. Mm.
I think that's a great reminder to me, because I haven't been doing that there, and it's a great reminder that actually, 5 minutes, 10 minutes
Mm.
of intentional rest or intentional whatever you want to call that, has it's like the um, results of that are exponential.
Mm.
Versus,
A
and also
100%.
conversely, if you don't do it, the results are exponential.
Exactly. And that's again, that is why how I've managed to buy a house. Do you know?
Yeah.
It's like uh, saving all that money, working extra hours and doing murals on the weekends and things like that. The only way it's funny, I was talking to another friend who's a creative and saying I must look like a schizophrenic, and she was saying the same. When I start a mural now, so I go, everything I do, if I can, is on what feels good in my body. So I will get to a mural job, and obviously I've packed the whole car and I've thought about it and I've done my health and safety. So I'll get to site and I'll usually stop. I'll stop and then I'll assess the site, and then I'll write my health and safety stuff. So I've just packed the car and driven there. So then my rest is filling out the forms because it's quiet, and I'll sit in my car in the shade and fill out the form of what needs to happen on the site. And then I'll unpack my car onto the site, and that takes a lot of energy as well. And then I'll stop, and I'll usually either go and get a coffee or I'll sit in the shade and I'll think, what do I want to do? And it's usually a social media post. So I'll do a photo and write a wee post about just about to get started for the day. And then I'm usually like, ooh, what do I feel like doing now? And usually it's like a big block of color. So then I'll open a can, and then I find that's when I really hit flow. And that's when I just almost forget. And 2 or 3 hours later, I'll stop and I'll like, whoa, I've got heaps done on the wall. But then again, what I find is I'll be in flow and I could keep going for hours. I could keep going all day. But what I now have is that I get this flutter in my heart. It doesn't hurt or anything, but it's like a butterfly inside my heart, right? And as soon as I feel that, it doesn't hurt, nothing. But I go, ooh, I have 15 minutes until I get really tired, or I trip over, or something and I hurt myself. And so what I then do is I go, you've got 5 minutes because I can't help but keep going. So I go, right, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and then I'll put my paintbrush in the water and then I'll put the cap on the paint and I'll go and sit again in the shade and I'll have a drink of water and I'll think, what do I want? And sometimes it'll be 10 minutes of rest and other times it'll be, a piece of fruit or something. But yeah, and I know that I need at least 15 minutes after that flutter of just nothing. And then, yeah, and then sometimes, and then again, it's all about listening to myself. That's what I really learned with the occupational therapist. I have this like board, we call it the boardroom with all little people inside my tummy here that we call it. And they talk all the time. So they go, are we safe? Is everything okay? What are we feeling right now? Is there a lion at the door, a tiger at the door? And then, and then we make a decision. But it's all about self-soothing. So it's like, am I okay? Is this, that's how I now manage life, and that's how the chronic fatigue is improved, is by continually giving myself, okay, you're all right. There are days that I open the curtains and it hurts my eyes. And that's when I have to listen to the little boardroom in my tummy and decide if what I can do today is wearing sunglasses enough, or do I need to actually do a half day at work, or do I need to cancel some appointments so that I can keep going. So yeah.
It's so interesting because, and these were interesting a lot today because everything's very interesting what you're saying today. Just the other day, I had this conversation at a random function, and we spoke about awareness. So everything we spoke about awareness precedes change is what the big quote is. But I was challenged in that evening by actually awareness precedes change, which is good. But for us to have change, we also have willingness. So as you said before, you have the awareness of your boardroom, which says, hey, but then the willingness to listen to your boardroom is very different to the awareness of the boardroom, right? And I think this is where a lot of us, and myself included, we have the awareness, but do we have the willingness? And those are two very, very different conversations.
And not only that, but I think there's a belief structure that
Yeah,
goes with the not listening to the boardroom. Because if our mother or our father or our boss or someone influential in our life has influenced us to think harden up, or it's not bad enough to take the rest that you need, or to change, or that you should be sitting at your desk all day from 9 to 5. The fact that I can drive away, go around the corner, lay down in my car for 15 minutes and come back, that I give myself permission to do that. I used to beat myself up. You're so weak, you can't. Before I sort of started this journey, I would have told myself that I should be able to do more. And now I just think, if I am enough, that even with taking this time, even in the middle of a really busy day, that's okay. The right people will accept that I take that time, and it has happened like that. Yeah.
yeah. It all comes down to you taking ownership of your own
Mm.
reactions, and then other you can't control other people's reactions, right? You cannot.
No,
You can,
you're right.
and I think when we realize that actually we can't control them, and we don't know how they're going to react, there's
Mm.
assumptions that we have. It makes life very, very difficult when we start doing that there.
And the next level to that is when someone reacts badly, to really, the big thing I always think is it's not about you.
Yep.
So sometimes someone will react badly and they'll get upset at you, or say something mean. And the biggest learning for me has been not to take that on. Sometimes you've made a mistake and you can feel sorry for it, but mostly it's about that they're having a bad day or they're struggling. And all what we can do to be kind, and this is particularly in the book, I find that you can do the most amazing thing for your community, or a project could go wrong. You could run out of money, or you could make a mistake, or some people just don't like it. You made a park and other people wanted a lake. I don't know. But, and there's always going to be someone that's going to say, I don't like what you've done. And if you take that on, you'll never do anything, or you'll feel bad about what you have done, and neither of those are good options. So the big thing is to realize that other people's perspective are not about you. It's
Yeah.
just really hard.
Yeah. And other people's perspective is not your reality.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
not your reality. And also, I read this somewhere a few months ago. An opinion is not a fact.
Yes.
So, and an opinion is not a fact. And I read this, an opinion is a fact. Therefore, my fact is I don't have to listen to your opinion. I was like, that was so, so true because, so many times we go, everyone's got an opinion. It doesn't mean if you've got an opinion that you have to agree with it. I can go, no,
Mm.
I don't agree with your opinion, and it's okay for that to happen.
And one of my particular ones is about that criticism. I often think now, if you're not trying to do what I'm doing, as in either come to me with a constructive criticism, with a suggestion, or how I could do it better, but don't just criticize because if you, especially if you're not doing it too.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. It's easy to criticize if you haven't been there.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
easy, it's easy to be a commentator when you're not on the
Yes.
sports field, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So take,
yeah,
yeah, be proud of that you're doing it. And if someone criticizes, I often say, feel free to join us. Come and join us on this journey. And then, yeah, we'd love to hear what you have to think. But until you're here in the meetings, doing the hard work, doing the mahi, thank you for your
yeah,
insight.
yeah. Exactly, exactly, exactly. Tana, any questions from you, Tana? Any?
There's nothing that stands out for me. No.
Yeah, it's just really interesting, and I love the way you put that there, Margot. Is that everyone has got an opinion, and again, you're not going to please everybody, and when you try and please everybody, you end up not pleasing yourself.
Mm. That's, yep, 100% the case. And you won't make as big a change as you could if you spend too much time thinking about what everyone else is thinking or doing. Um, and you can, the big thing from the book is that, like with so many books, like with Atomic Habits and you can make massive change in the world if you are open, loving, and you connect with other people. Because, like the manifestation thing, I remember when I first found out about manifestation, I thought, I've been doing this my whole life. I didn't realize there was a word for it, because I talk a lot, as you can tell. But because of that, I find that because people know what I'm up to, they look for me. So I always
Yeah,
say, I have an idea. And then when I put it out in the world, there's five people thinking about my idea and they all come back to me. Oh, that whole idea of I want a red bike. Suddenly you tell all these people I want to buy a red bike and someone says, oh, I just saw a red bike on sale the other day. The next thing you know, or someone says, I've got a red bike that I don't want anymore. And suddenly you get, I think with a project, with something that you're doing for the world, the more people you get out and tell about it, the more likely you are to succeed, and the more people that are on your side and they're actually backing you, helping you achieve the goal. And
100%.
even and yeah, I just that's my thing with the book is yeah, and life in general that you can achieve so much if you just tell people what you're trying to achieve. If you keep it to yourself, it's much harder to get there.
Yeah, exactly. If you, I analogy I use with my clients is, you can have a great idea in your bedroom, but it's only you in the bedroom. You need to get out of the bedroom and you've got to share that idea with somebody. And
Yeah.
it's all, you can
And
always come back to the bedroom if you want to, but once it goes out there, the universe takes care of it.
that is it is the best thing because like so my friend Sonia that helped me get started with the book, that's us. So we both have big ideas and we talk like this once a week on a Monday night and um the thing is that we keep helping each other keep our ideas alive. So, we've both got three kids, we've both got lots of things going in our lives, full-time jobs, everything else. And by having these catch-ups, I'll ask her, "Oh, how's putting your application into uni going? Or how's that project you started going? Or how's that challenge that you had? Is it getting better?" And so it's like coaching, but on a friendship level, and it's just beautiful. And I think that that's the same with a community group. When you find someone who resonates with you, who is into, so whatever it is you want to achieve, you'll find someone by talking that is as passionate or close to as passionate as you are about that topic. And then you've got someone that when you feel a little tired or whatever, that they will go, how's that going? And then they get the excitement going again and it keeps the energy going. So I think that that's the biggest thing about community is that it helps you keep the energy high about a specific topic. Mm.
Yeah, and community is all about the vibe, right? When you
Mm.
attract your vibe and your vibe
Yeah.
attracts your tribe, and that's quite a great way. And it's actually true. In all the communities I'm part of, it's people that I resonate with on different levels, but I still
Yeah.
resonate with them, and I don't have to agree with them. And the same thing,
No.
and they lift you up, or or they pull you down sometimes to reality. They go, actually, hey, have you looked at it from this angle here? Which, as you said before, their perspective, you might go, actually, this is true. I didn't think about that. And you might take that on board, or you might go, nah. So I love the way you put that there. Margot, we've been speaking for almost an hour, but I want to
Yeah.
touch on I want to touch on another part of a big part of your life, which is your murals. How did it all start? Because that is, that's a massive part of your life, and you share the color and the beauty with your community. Where was the inspiration for that?
Well, I've painted since I was a kid, so I've always been arty. That was always when I was little, I was always in my bedroom with crayons on colors and things. Um, and like I said, when I had that surgery, I woke up and I said, I want to do more with my art. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was driving around my community. I lived in Amberley, just an hour north of Christchurch, and I was driving around, and there was a set of shops that had been, they were building a shopping centre, and the people had owned the same space. So they'd got all the retailers to move into the new shopping centre, and the old one was just sitting empty. And it was a bit sad. It was opposite the library, and so everyone still went there, but it was like there was sort of like dust, going through the car park, and the buildings hadn't been cleaned out properly, so there were still posters in the windows, and it made me feel a bit sad. And so I contacted the property manager, the people that were leasing it, and said, could I possibly help make it look a bit nicer? And they said, what do you think? And I was a bit cheeky, and I was like, well, we could paint the outside one color, we could clean the windows, but we could put a mural on that big space on the wall. And they came back and were like, great idea, that's amazing. We'll do everything, but we won't pay for the mural. And I was like, oh, that's the one bit I really wanted to do. And so they said, but if you went to council, there are grants. And honestly, it was hilarious because the week before I'd seen the post go up on the Cat Crusher, and what's called Hiranui District Council page about arts, um, what's it called again? Creative New Zealand Arts Funding. And the cutoff was the next day.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was one of those meant to be things, right? I downloaded the form, I filled it out on the day, submitted it, and a week later they approved me, and I had 5 grand to paint my first mural. So it was phenomenal. And nobody asked what the topic was, nobody asked what was going to be on the mural. But yeah, so I got these 5 boards made up and painted what I called Love Living Here Hiranui, which was all the things as a foreigner coming into New Zealand, all the things I loved about living in the Hiranui. And so it was just a joy to paint because there was no restrictions. And I was still coming out of the first surgery, the breast surgery. And so my partner actually put the panels up on the fence of our house, and I would just walk out and just do, like, I couldn't even raise my arms very high. I still can't believe I did that, but I did it about 4 months after that surgery, and I would just paint just like that. I couldn't actually stretch my arms out yet, and painted this 12-meter mural in about 6 months on at home, and then we hung it on the wall. And immediately when we did that, somebody approached me and said, oh, we've got a space up north. Would you like to come and paint that? And then that was Waiau. So after the earthquake, which was centered there, and they lost so many of their buildings, they loved what I did in Amberley and said, we would like to showcase the elements of our community that are going to be lost because the buildings need to come down, and still to inspire and make people feel better during this hard time. And so I went up, oh, I actually did the same. I painted it on panels. This time I rented a space, a warehouse, and I had the panels on the wall because it was during a winter. So I painted during the winter, and then they hung it up in the summer, and they hung it in the park so everyone could see it. And it was just so lovely. And then at that opening ceremony, someone from Waikari approached me and said, oh, we've got a water tank. Would you like to? So it's been this beautiful thing that at each community event to release a mural, someone's approached me for another mural. So that's kind of why I think I kind of call myself the community mural lady. I love doing things to make a community feel better. So
That's awesome. And what a great story there, because as you said, you started with one, and then when you put yourself out there, someone else comes along. You don't go searching for it, people come to you,
okay,
which is which
yeah.
is which is which is all about, life. People come searching for you. I was saying to Tana that you asked to come on the podcast. You asked a while ago, and I was like, this is the right time to let's make it happen. And if there's a reason why, time and place happens. So thank you so much. Any last questions, Tana, before we ask our final question? Or Mark, is there anything that you'd like to share before that we haven't touched on that you think people would like to hear about?
Hmm. Uh, no, but I would love to. Yeah, I would like the thing. I'm learning to coach, as you know, and my goal is to work with community groups to help them achieve their goals. So if anyone is part of a community group, whether that's a sporting one or something to do with the school or just achieving a project in their community and would like some guidance to achieve that goal, whether that be getting the right team together or having the right having idea about how they set up their money or anything like that. That's what I would like. I'd like to get some experience working with groups. So at the moment, I'm just looking for opportunities to work with groups and help them achieve their goals, just on an advice level, really. So I've got this kind of idea called dating business and community. It's like a dating app for business and community where I'm trying to find a way to get businesses to donate $2,000 and then we'll use that money to give the community groups 5 sessions of coaching with me and extra resources and social media so that both parties end up getting acknowledgement. So social media posts to say that they've worked together and to say what they're achieving together. And the community group gets acknowledgement about what they're doing. And so my goal is to have this idea of, and then at the end of the process, after the 5 sessions and everything and the socials, they fall in love. And then from then on, I don't need to be involved. They just always think about each other when they're doing something. And so that's kind of my little pipe dream at the moment. That's where I'm heading with that part of my career. So for the moment, I would just love to work with some community groups and just get more experience of facilitating. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. What we'll do is in the show notes, we'll put your contact details, your website, and also a copy of where they can get your book from as well, because I
Thank
think
you.
the book is pretty cool. Margot, thank you for sharing that towards the end. And we're not going to let you go off just lightly. We have one more question to ask you before we head away. Our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge, and every episode we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket. You've shared tons of knowledge, but is there one piece of knowledge that we can put into our kit in our basket of knowledge for myself, Tana, and for our listeners?
Oh, that's a big question. Hmm. Okay, so one of the things that I say is my superpower, and my girlfriend gave me this word, is that I'm a possibilitarian, which I just love the word. And I've got my friend Sonia, actually, the one that helped me with the book. Her little byline on WhatsApp is, "What if everything worked out?" And that idea of just dreaming ridiculously big, but with that detachment. So just, I always say what I love about meeting someone amazing like you and me when we met at the Thrive event. When you connect with someone like that, there's all this magic. Like I always imagine it's like dust, like glitter hanging above us in the air, right? You have that meeting with someone and you go, oh, this person's just really excited me. And that's what I see is all this sort of glitter hanging in the air between us. And that's the possibility of what we can create together. So I would challenge anyone else to just dream on that level. Let go of the it should be like this or this is my limit. And actually, because I always say dreaming is free, right? You can dream as big as you want and you can change your mind as many times as you like. And when you finally get to that point where it feels so good that you think, I can action this, go for it. So what I would say is be a possibilitarian. Just think as broadly as you can and let yourself dream because that is the way that you will achieve big things in the world. Is just yeah, really feeling into what it is you want to do and but let it sit until it feels comfortable. Yeah.
What a lovely piece of wisdom to put into our basket there, and what a great way to round off the podcast. It's like a full circle moment. When we started off, you spoke about your big dream to own a house. And we've rounded it up by going, actually, hey, world, dream big. Dream big, find the people that give you glitter in your life and be a possibilitarian. What a great word. What a
I
great
know.
phrase. What a great phrase. Margot, thank you so much for today. We've spoken for just over an hour. There's so much in your world that we could go into so much depth, and we want to get you back on again. But I want to acknowledge you for sharing openly. I also want to acknowledge you sharing time on your birthday today with us. And we're actually really honored and privileged that you are still with us, given all that you've got in your life. So as your t-shirt says, you matter. And so thank you so much for your time. To listeners out there, thank you for joining in. Hopefully you've picked up something that you can put into your basket of knowledge. Hopefully you've found a part of the story that resonates with you or someone that you know. And if you haven't, go back and listen again because you've fallen asleep. But I promise you that this is a great podcast. Until next time, don't forget to keep smiling. Don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. And as Margot said, don't forget to be a possibilitarian. Till next time, ka kite, everybody. Peace. Thank you, Margot.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.